Where did he go?
The kid's got style.
I don't know why, but I feel like no one really talks about Static Shock, and I've never even seen the show, but I felt that Static Shock was a show that needed to be talked about on this platform, much like The Batman did. I've never been super into Static as a character, so I just decided to watch all the crossover episodes of the show, the episodes that cross over with other shows within the DCAU, of course. And there are a total of 6 of them, so let's just go ahead, not waste any time, and jump into this. The big leagues. Let's start with the obvious. Mark Hamill and Kevin Conroy. They are both amazing, as they always are. The basic premise of the episode is basically just Joker assembling a new game, but this time with metahumans and Static's home place of Dakota, which is pretty meh in of itself, but it leads to Batman and Robin. I don't really care. The laughing gas used on Ferret was it was a little graphic. It was pretty violent for, I guess, the tone the show kind of had up until that point. Joker's color scheme looks really off in this episode. I don't really know why. Maybe it has something to do with background used to animate the episode or something. The Joker score was really the only music in this episode I enjoyed. I wasn't the biggest fan outside of that, to be honest. The overdramatic Batman and Robin entrance with the over-the-top music playing was great.
Not what?
There's a photo of Harley in Joker's office, we'll say, shown more than once in this episode, which I thought was interesting because they have a very strained relationship, to say the least. Static is kind of dumb and lost his way to contact Batman. It was just kind of an excuse for him to make a cool bat signal with his powers. And Joker is trying to kill Batman. At this point, I don't really know why they even act like that's what Joker wants. Most of the fights this episode were pretty standard and nothing special, but I did really like the ending. Joker's defeat, where he reaches out to shake Batman's hand with the Joy Buzzer, and instead of Batman's hand, he gets Static's, which leads to Joker himself being electrocuted. Then Static gets a form of approval from Batman, even teasing them meeting up once again in the future. I found it to be a fairly satisfying ending, and overall, this episode isn't bad at all.
That looks fun. Let me try.
Hard as nails. It opens in Gotham, you see Bullock, you see Gordon, then you see Static in a Batman-like pose atop a rooftop, and on top of that you even get a lightning strike in the background. Nels is a girl named Allie that he has been tracking and is now chasing her through Gotham. There's this whole flashback scene showing us a little about her character, but I didn't really care about that, not the reason I watched the episode. I do love how they bring up the question of why would anyone want to go to Gotham City though? Because seriously, why would you want to? Then we go back to the Gotham rooftops and get our introduction to Batman himself in this episode. And he has the most stone cold look on his face when Static shows up, which I just love. And not long after, Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn both show up. I love how you can tell the threat that Poison Ivy is just from Batman's voice before the two show up. Phenomenal voice work from Kevin Conroy, as always. Rightfully so though, because Batman and Static got turned into trees basically. But of course Batman breaks out, then proceeds to break Static out like the monster of the man he is. Static gets taken to the Batcave and meets Alfred, who tells him he is Batman, which is a pretty hilarious moment. And in the scene, we get a name drop of the Titans because Robin is off doing work with them, which I think is the coolest moment I've covered so far.
So, where's Robin?
With the Titans.
The who?
You'll meet him someday.
Batman saying that this troubled kid will just be sent to Arkham or Blackgate like the rest of the villains in Gotham was a bit out of character for him, in my opinion. I don't see Batman not wanting to help a kid in any situation. I mean, look at Batman Beyond. But he actually didn't want to take Terry under his wing initially, so maybe this was just a consistency in character and writing. The brief moment with Batman, Gordon, and Bullock was great. Bullock has a line after he and Static leave that totally caught me off guard, but got a good chuckle.
What the heck did Robin do to his hair?
I guess the episode made me feel bad enough for Nels, but she didn't really have a character. I enjoy Batman and Static's relationship overall. There are plenty of great moments. Harley and Ivy is always a plus. I love the ending with Bruce funding Nels' entire procedure and him meeting Virgil, because it's harkening back to a scene from earlier that involved Static keeping his ID with him, even while he fights crime as Static, which, Virgil, come on man. But the proper ending is actually Static discovering Bruce is Batman because Alfred shows up and Virgil puts two and two together. I'll be honest, I didn't see that coming. I think this was better than the Joker episode.
Who are you?
Batman.
A League of Their Own. Now we're to the big Justice League episode, and I'm sorry, but this two-part episode was extremely underwhelming. From the crossover being the Justice League, at least 5 members of Batman, Flash, Martian Manhunter, Hawkgirl, and Green Lantern, to the villain in Brainiac. I think everything was there for a good episode, but it was just kinda an average Brainiac episode with the most basic of stories. Brainiac just wanting to take over everything and extracting knowledge from it before disposing of it. A lot of the dialogue was kind of bland, some was good. The episode had some funny jokes, but not really any standout character moments, sadly. It also focused on Richie entirely too much for being a Justice League episode of Static Shock. Considering this was 2 parts, crossing over with a show that did that for literally every episode in its run besides one, and containing several of my favorite comics characters ever, it was a bit disappointing.
Hope he's not mad when he wakes up. Hope he's not mad now.
Toys in the Hood. This is a very interesting episode because it's almost a sequel episode to the final Toyman episode of Superman the Animated Series. The reason Toyman is in Dakota is Darcy. In the beginning, we think it's just because of his obsession with her, but it's actually because Darcy wants to be human. She started as a robot, she got a personality in Superman the Animated Series already, but now she wants more. So Toyman seeks a clown posse he built upon Virgil's school and kidnaps a student. I have to also mention, I think this is the best the music has been in an episode thus far. I wasn't the biggest fan of Darcy just becoming a clone of Daisy, who was the student Toyman abducted. I actually kind of feel bad for Toyman. I'm not sure if that's the intent or not, but if so, it worked on me. And I was very happy once Darcy got what she deserved. Superman and Static were stalled by kryptonite-infused plastic soldiers for far too long. Superman was basically presented as useless in the second half of this episode, which was somewhat disappointing. I get it's Static Shock's show, but I wish it felt like Supes did more in this episode. Future Shock. The opening to this episode is very enjoyable. I love seeing Static with Bruce and Robin again before getting teleported to the Batman Beyond time period.
Where'd he go?
Not where. When?
I think this was a scenario that made the most sense in Static's show opposed to any of the other DCAU shows. This was almost like a trial run for the Once and Future Thing in JLU that aired a year later.
And second, I'm Batman.
And I'm Beyonce.
And on all accounts, I think it was a success. The initial encounter between Terry and Static is terrific. I love their banter. There are plenty of funny moments. Then Bruce intervenes and informs Terry on the whole situation, and Static on the fact that he's been waiting 40 plus years for this moment, which is just insanity. Then they introduce Cobra, which was a little underwhelming. I don't understand Batman Beyond's fascination with them, but they were one of the weakest parts of the show and just don't make for great villains most of the time. But the big plot of the episode is revealed in this moment. Terry and Static must team up to rescue a very powerful hero being held prisoner by Cobra, and that prisoner is revealed to be Virgil himself.
How great can this guy be if he's stupid enough to get caught by a bunch of snake people?
He's you, Virgil.
The scene with the Jokers was pretty good overall. I didn't expect to see as much of Terry out of the suit as we did, but I thought it was kind of cool that we did. The fight was good enough. It was just another showcase of Static's powers, really. After the fight is over, Terry is extremely pissed, and I can understand why. Static isn't disciplined as a hero yet. He's still relatively new to these powers. And it's brought up earlier in the episode, Static doesn't have a mentor like Terry has in Bruce. It's even brought up later again. So I thought everything here made sense. They are two teens. It's not hard to make them emotional and piss them off. And Bruce kind of playing dad to these two in the episode is a nice touch. Funny at times, and it never gets ridiculous. Static and Terry were awesome together. They play off one another super well. A lot of fun moments in this episode. Visually it looked great. A lot of choices made that I loved. The music was on point in this episode. There really weren't many beats missed. Cobra didn't even bother me this episode. I'd recommend it to anyone who's a fan of Static or Batman Beyond. It's pretty easily my favorite of the ones I've talked about today. And it kinda sucks this is the one we're ending it off with, but Fallen Hero. The beginning of this episode is so weird with the way Green Lantern is talking. His power is on full display, but that awkwardness does make sense after a few minutes because the real Green Lantern shows up, and it's revealed the one who was doing these crimes is Sinestro. This episode was very basic. Sinestro is posing as John to ruin the Green Lantern name, and that's really all there is to it. I don't understand why Sinestro can just shapeshift into John Stewart, a Green Lantern, when he is now a Yellow Lantern. It's never actually explained. His yellow ring absorbed the power of the Green Lantern somehow, but he still shouldn't be able to wield the power of the Green Lantern anymore, so even that doesn't make much sense. As far as I'm aware at least, I'm not super well versed in the GL mythos. Especially following Future Shock, this is kinda an underwhelming watch. Still a decent episode overall though. I mean, it is the DCAU. And I'll just end this off with my ranking of the 6 episodes. At 6 is Fallen Hero. Number 5 is A League of Their Own. Number 4 is The Big Leagues. At number 3, Toys in the Hood. Runner up, Hard as Nails. And at number 1, Future Shock. So guys, let me know what you think about these episodes down in the comments below. Have you seen Static Shock in its entirety? Have you ever checked out an episode of the show? What do you think about Static as a character, and what do you think about the show? Maybe I'll discuss this show further in the future, who knows. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. I hope all you sexy motherfuckers have a great day, and I will see you guys next time.